Well, thank you again, Gilbert, for hosting this event. Thanks for everybody who's listening in. As Gilbert mentioned, we are a copper-focused exploration company, and our focus is not just copper projects alone, but copper projects in Peru. We have been working in Peru for quite a long time, and we've been focused on the portfolio of projects that I'll quickly review with you today since we acquired them in 2007. So the company is based here in Vancouver. This is our headquarters, but we have a very small management team. The rest of all of our geologic expertise, our geologists, community relations people, environmentalists, et cetera, are all based in Peru. So our team is primarily Peruvian. All of our assets are in Peru. We are also listed on the Lima Stock Exchange, and 3 of our directors are also from Peru. So we have built a team specifically designed for our objective of remaining focused in Peru. As Gilbert mentioned, we have a large portfolio of projects, 10 of them in the south of Peru. And I'll focus primarily on the first 2 projects that are shown on the list here. The 5 that you see here are what we consider to be our 5 active projects. The Kotobambas project is our largest project, has a preliminary economic assessment completed. We have a strategic streaming partnership with Wheaton Precious Metals on the project. And the project is currently in the state of expanding the resource. We have some exploration completed and some additional exploration going on that I'll review with you. Our second project is Antilla. Antilla is a copper project where we also have a preliminary economic assessment completed. We've done some additional metallurgical work, and the project is now ready to move into feasibility studies. I'll review our plans for the project as well. So I'll focus my presentation on Cotabambas and Antilla, which are our most advanced and largest projects. But I'll remind you that there are 3 other active projects that we have. Cusiorco, which we sold to Hudbay. The project is very near Hudbay's Constancia mine, and we are owed some cash, milestone cash payments, and a 2% royalty. And then Hudbay is permitting the exploration there. We also have the Humamantata project that has been partnered with Hudbay, with JOGMEC, and it's an early stage project. And JOGMEC is funding that work, and that work is underway. Also, we recently sold our Cochasaywas project to a Peruvian partner, where again, we have some scheduled cash payments plus a 5% royalty coming. So as I said, we're copper focused. What is copper? Copper is used in everything electrical. Major use is for its conductive properties. The bulk of new copper usage is in Asia, and within Asia, primarily in China. Roughly half of the world's copper is currently used in China, in building construction, infrastructure, equipment, and more importantly, on a growing basis on electric vehicles. It's estimated that as electric vehicles become more common, up to 25% of the current supply of copper could go for the use in electric vehicles. The also part of the electric vehicle movement, coupled with that, is renewable energy. The cost of generating electrical power through solar or wind has come down significantly. It is in the range of generating power through burning hydrocarbons. So the world is moving towards a greater use of renewable energies to generate more electricity, storing it in batteries, and using it for all types of industrial and commercial purposes. And all of this means more copper. There's been lots of research going on in in renewable energies, bringing down further the costs of solar, photovoltaic, and wind farms, and importantly, that the costs have come down disproportionately higher in both China and India, which are two of the developing countries where the greatest new demand for copper is likely to come over the next 2 decades. Panoro Minerals, we're a very undervalued company trading at $30 million. We're traded, as I mentioned, on the venture exchange, but also in Lima, Peru. Our all-time high has been at about $150 million market cap. All of our projects are in this important southern part of Peru, where you can see there is a large number of projects that have been built or are in construction by companies like MMG, which is owned by China Minmetal, by Hudbay, which is also a large shareholder of Panoro, by Freeport of the United States, of Teck from Canada, Mitsubishi from Japan, Minsur from Peru, Grupo Mexico from from Mexico. So you can see the entire world has been investing very heavily into copper projects in the south of Peru. And in the south of Peru, Panoro is the only company with advanced copper projects. So we expect to form good partnerships with major companies to develop these assets. The Kotobambas project is not a new project. We have been drilling the project since 2007. We have completed more than 80,000 meters of drilling. You can see that there is a 722 million ton resource on the project. We have done a lot of work over the last 11 years on drilling, defining the resource, which is contained within 2 pits. We have completed and optimized a preliminary economic assessment, where you can see the very positive economics on the project at the PEA, the metal prices that were used in the PEA. But importantly, I'll do a comparison here to show the impacts on the economics of the project that come from increased copper and gold and silver prices recently. Very important aspect of the Cotabambas project is that it has over 4 million ounces of gold in the resource and will produce over approximately 100,000 ounces per year of gold and 1 million ounces a year of silver. So it's a uniquely leveraged copper project to the price of gold and silver, which greatly brings down the cash costs for the project. So unique project in the way it's levered to gold and silver in a very important copper producing district in the south of Peru. The leverage to the copper, the leverage to the gold and silver prices brings up the average copper equivalent grade. You can see that it has a grade of about 0.68% copper during the first 10 years of mine life. The average cash cost to produce the copper is only 59 cents, and the project that will produce some 123,000 tons per year of copper equivalent. And if you look at just the gold and silver together, the gold and silver accounts for about 130,000 ounces of gold equivalent per year. So very important production profile for the Cotabambas project. The Antilla project is a little bit smaller in scale. Instead of 700 million ton resource, the project has approximately a 400 million ton resource. But the attractive part of the Antilla project is its low cost. The preliminary economic assessment has been completed to look at leaching of the supergene component of the resource, which is just under 200 million tons of resource. The preliminary economic assessment showed that for a $250 million capital cost, you could build a project that would produce 20,000 tons a year of high quality copper cathode. After the PEA, we've done some more metallurgical testing to show that the recoveries can be increased, which allows for the mining of additional tonnage of resource from the Antilla project. So the project could increase its throughput or production of copper cathode to 35,000 tons a year. And you can see that at $3.05 copper price, the project has initial capital cost of $327 million, but has a net present value of almost $500 million all in US dollars. So it's a very strong economic project with a rate of return of almost 37%. So two advanced copper projects that combined have over $1 billion net present value. And to complete that work required to get to this stage, you can see that at the Cotabambas and Antilla projects, we have already invested some $70 million. And that is, most of that investment has gone into drilling. As I mentioned, the Cotabambas project is some 80,000 meters of drilling, and we have some 10 to 15,000 meters of drilling at the Antilla project. So all told, we've drilled over 100,000 meters at these two projects and taken the two projects from zero resource to a combined 1.1 billion tons of inferred and indicated resource, and completed the preliminary economic assessments that now have a combined valuation of over $1 billion US. So we've invested a lot of money, we've done a lot of work, we've achieved a lot of important milestones at the Cotabambas and Antilla projects, but we remain significantly undervalued in the market. You can see that in terms of the amount of money that we've invested compared to our peer group companies, we are trading at less than half of the median value. In terms of the amount of copper that we have, or copper equivalent that we have, we are trading 1/4 of the value of our peer group company. So compared to the other companies in our peer group, significant upside valuation has already been built into the Panoro Minerals because of the achievements at the Cotabambas and Antilla projects. If you look at historic valuations of valuations based on copper equivalent in the ground or of net present value of the projects, we are valued at 1/7 of the typical historic valuation. So we've done a lot of work and we've achieved some very significant milestones on both of these projects, but remain undervalued. One of the key reasons that I believe that we're undervalued, well, there's a number of reasons. One is, up until recently, copper price had been in a continuous and sort of a long and steady decline. And so, so investor interest into exploration companies like Panoro was relatively subdued. That has started to change. The other part of the company's story that isn't well understood is the partnerships that we formed with the companies that you see here, Wheaton Precious Metals, Hudbay, JOGMEC, and Mintania. That has secured for us financing, not just now, but into the future. So we have some $5 to $7 million per year coming into the company from the partnerships that we have completed. Now that doesn't always reflect directly onto our quarterly financial statements, at least for those who take just a first glance at it. So I think that the lack of understanding of our financial position is part of the reason that we have been undervalued. Also, I think that the importance of our strategic partnerships is not fully understood in the market yet. So that's why we're undertaking some activity like our presentation today to inform potential investors. Plus, we have completed over the last number of months some important milestones related to our non-core projects of Cotabambas and Antilla, specifically the Humamantata and Cochasaiwas projects. And again, I don't think that the market has well understood those achievements. So what I've tried to go through here very quickly is that copper is a key industrial commodity, a key industrial metal that is fundamental to the urbanization and industrialization of the developing world. That Peru is a key copper producer, and a large part of the mining sector worldwide is heavily invested into developing copper assets in Peru. And Panoro Minerals is a unique exploration company because we have a number of assets in Peru, a number of advanced assets in Peru. We are well financed with funding into the future, and we have already completed some significant partnerships with important industrial players. And we will continue, as I mentioned, we have a number of other early stage assets. So we will continue working on some of the ideas that we've been developing on other strategic partnerships with important industry players who are also looking for exposure to the Southern Peru copper district. So all in all, copper is an important place, an important commodity. Peru is an important place, and Panoro, we're in a unique position in southern part of Peru with our partnerships, our financing, and our portfolio of projects. So that, in a very quick summary, is Panoro Minerals. Gilbert, I'll turn it back over to you for any questions.
No problem. Look, we have a few questions. So the first one coming from Olivia Lau is asking you about your personnel. I think it's about your shareholder base, the structure. Who are your major shareholders, I believe?
Right. Our largest shareholder is Hudbay Minerals. They own just under 12% of our stock. Our next largest institutional shareholder is Resource Capital Funds, a private equity fund in the United States. They own approximately 6.5% of our stock. Then the board and management together, we own some 11% of our stock. Then importantly, approximately 30% of our shares are owned by Peruvians in Peru, primarily high net worth investors.
Great. Next question coming from Marx here. Can you go over a bit more details about your deal with Wheaton, and what's the NSR there?
Sure. Our deal with Wheaton is not a royalty deal; it's a streaming deal, so there's no NSR. But what the deal is that Wheaton will contribute $140 million to the development of the Cotabambas project. And in return for that, they will gain the right to acquire 25% of the project's gold at $450 an ounce and 100% of the project's silver at $5.90 an ounce with some escalation factors in there. So they provide money up front to finance the development of the project, and in return, they get a lower delivery price on the gold and silver that is produced. So importantly, Wheaton Precious Metals does not earn a profit on the transaction until the project is built and operating. And in return, they help finance the project.
Sure. So the next one from Jeffrey. What are the key steps now if the company wants to move Cotabambas to production?
The two steps that we have contemplated currently that are in our near-term targets. One is to complete the drilling at the other high-grade targets that we've identified, because there's still some exploration upside that we'd like to roll into the project. So we'd like to complete that drilling. Then we need to move into feasibility studies and permitting. So there is some 2 to 3 years worth of drilling, a little bit of exploration, mostly infill, and then engineering and permitting to move the project to a state where it is permitted for development.
Okay, so the next one coming from Gonzalo. He was asking you how will you be able to finance up to the feasibility studies of Antilla?
The Antilla project, most of the resource in the mine plan is already at indicated category. Therefore, there's very little. We estimated about 4,000 or 5,000 meters of drilling required to move some of the resource into measured. So we've estimated that there's approximately a $5 million cost to complete the feasibility studies at Antilla. And as I showed earlier, we have some $5 million a year coming in from the financings that we've already completed. So that is one alternative. That's our base case alternative to move Antilla into feasibility studies. We are, although, at the same time in parallel in discussions and reviewing potential partnership ideas at the Antilla project. Because as I showed on our earlier slide, our Kotobambas project, we already have a streaming agreement with Wheaton Precious Metals. We have Hudbay as a shareholder. At Cusiorco, we have Hudbay as a operating partner. At Humamantata, we have JOGMEC. At Cotabambas, you have Mintania. So you can see the direction that the company is going is to bring in well-qualified experienced strategic partners to help move the projects forward. So in parallel, that's what we're pursuing at Antilla.